Welcome to the GameDev.tv Community Podcast. I'm your host KB, and I would like to introduce you to industry professionals and people who successfully made their path to the video game industry. I hope that you will enjoy the podcast and get useful tips that will bring you closer to achieving your dreams. Now, let's get right into the podcast.
In 2 weeks, I'll be hitting my 6 months. So now I actually have
there we go.
time, like I have experience to talk about, right?
Yeah.
So I think the timing of everything works out.
It worked out perfect. It was all meant to be. Because I was like, Santa Monica, finally, because I always try to get someone from like the big studios, because they, especially with PlayStation, it's like difficult. So I'm like, hopefully we can get someone. And then, you know, per process, or some people just don't contact because you guys are all busy working. So it's just yeah. But that was good because I've got Naughty Dog, then I got what was it on Sucker Punch? Oh, we had Liz Fiatro. No, Liz, I think Libiz. She came on and she just like talked about we're working on the Ghost of Tsushima and writing it. And then when they came out with the multiplayer, I was like, you didn't tell me. And she's like, I couldn't. And I was like, I know.
No, there's a lot. It's definitely it's scary.
Oh, really?
I mean, it can be because there was a couple weeks ago or maybe months ago. My timeline on this is fuzzy, but I know that
COVID ruined everything with timelines.
Well, some prior God of War dev, I don't think he's at the studio now. I don't know all the details, but he like months ago he speculated about the game. He didn't say this is going to be what's going to happen. He just speculated where I think these are going to be the tech specs on the game. Okay. And then someone from a publication took that and was like, former God of War dev says this is going to happen. And then he had to come out on the record and be like, no, I never said that. And so, you know, you have to tiptoe around a lot of stuff, not because of, you know, not because I think like I'll spill the beans. Obviously I won't, but like, people can take a little bit and just run with it, and it's scary.
That's journalism. Like, yep. They're like, oh, GTA 6 is going to be this.
Journalism, that's propaganda.
Okay, true. See, there we go.
You know,
scary.
It sucks, but also like I'm just, you know, people are passionate, so.
Oh, that's true. Either passionate or trying to like scheme someone, and then they're passionate about that, which I don't even know.
There's a fine line between passion and obsession, right?
Right.
Like,
it's always interesting to me because like I'm not the type of person to scheme someone. So I'm like, how do people wake up and like today I'm gonna scheme people or lie or just like speak, you know, take one little small thing and be like, yeah, this is it, guys. Let me write a whole entire thing about it. I'm like, how do you?
No, I don't think. I choose to believe that.
People are good.
People have good intentions.
True.
I think people just, you know, get excited, and in that excitement, you get carried away with stuff like that.
That's
so
true.
I don't think people just wake up and they're like, how can I be awful today? Like, I just don't think that happens, right? I don't think that happens.
True. So you think it's like more like they accidentally do the bad things? They're like,
I mean, it's not recognizing the full impact of the things that you're doing. I mean, just because. You know, a corporate CEO doing his job well is not necessarily good for everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just because he's doing his job good, he's not doing anything wrong. It just happens to be that the extent of his actions can have those kinds of repercussions on others that are unintended and unperceivable.
Oh, definitely. I think that is the single most difficult thing about business, because I mean, I work full time at Santa Monica, but on the side, I technically have my own business, which is me, because I'm a full-time streamer too. And then I do like content creation on the side. So I am my own business. And then, you know, because I work full time, I have to enlist the help of video editors.
Oh, okay.
So sometimes like I have people help me with things, and then, you know, it's about trial and error. Like, you see what works, you try multiple things. So if you try something and it doesn't work, then you're like, well, sorry, I don't need you anymore.
Oh,
but
no.
It's like,
that's hard because you're like,
it's hard, because you care about those people so much.
Yeah.
And like, I made some videos and they just didn't do well. And it's, nothing to do with the quality of the videos, and it's all about like search engine optimization. And so like, how do you tell somebody like, you know, you did a really great job editing, like you did nothing wrong, but
like it's just
the
not
business
working.
I can't, the numbers don't make sense, so sorry.
Like Sheldon Cooper,
awful.
have a contract for everything in your life.
Yeah. So you know, the longer I live and the more life experience I get, the more you realize that, you know, like, I don't think there are inherently bad people, with a few exceptions. Like, I think that maybe people are good and bad
like
at
there's
different
some people.
times.
I got you. Yeah.
I think we're a mix.
Mm-hmm.
We all have the capability of being really good, and I think we all have times where we're just kind of shitty. Like, I think I don't know anybody who's been like a complete saint their whole lives. Like, it's just that's just human nature.
Yeah, no, I don't know. Because even the people you thought were saints, you find out later on like they weren't.
Oh, you find out they're human.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There we go. I like that answer. They're human.
Yeah. That's kind of the scary part about both putting people on a pedestal and being put on a pedestal. Because, you know, like with streaming too, like people put me on a pedestal because I'm like their entertainer. I'm on there, I'm doing my thing, and people are like, oh, you're so nice. And like, I think I am a nice person, but then sometimes I'm like, it makes you worried because I'm like, I mean,
am I?
Look, I am, but I'm also like, I could be petty, I could be mean, I could be everything. Like I have the full spectrum of Caitlin, and they're just, it's scary because you're like, so if you see the human side of me, are you gonna be like, oh my god,
right? Like she was what we thought. It's like
does your image of me just shatter to pieces?
I mean, that's, you know, the main problem with dating in your 20s, right?
I guess so. You don't even know who you are. So
no, like, oh. Well, that's exactly like,
no, it really is. Yeah.
And like the whole point of the podcast today is to talk about like students and like, you know, like my experiences and what students can take from it. And part of that's scary because, like, you know, I got to the chance to start college art at college at 17, and I was in community college until I was about like 22. So I got to art school and I started my video program at 22. And so I had a little bit of time to figure out what I want to do. But there were kids who started these programs like when I got to the art school who had got there at 18. And I'm like, how do you know?
That is, like,
how do you know?
I don't know. Because like when I was 18, I wanted to be a chef. So I don't.
Yeah, no, my brother went through the chef phase too, and now he's a lawyer in Washington, D.C. So like, you just, it's about trying a million things, and then you see what sticks.
Ooh, I like that.
Pretty sure I wanted to be a fireman, but it was the 70s. I mean, you know, there weren't a lot of options.
I wanted to be on a calendar.
I wanted to be an astronaut. It is crazy, like the different phases you go in life when you're like, I want to be this, and then you go, oh no, actually I want to be this. I've noticed in my life, it's like those phases actually help you get to the where you want to actually be.
Oh like, yeah, 100%. Like I never intended to be a Twitch streamer. I never intended to be a YouTuber. I never intended to. I don't know. Like in high school, I was taking classes to be in the medical field, like a certified nurse assistant. I was wiping butts at nursing homes. Like it's
oh gosh, that must have been a rough experience.
I had a weird path.
I was wiping butts with a nurse.
Yeah, well, to put it succinctly, yeah, I was.
Oh god, dude, I bet you get nightmares from that.
No, I mean it's humbling.
Like, I like that.
It's you know, like you see the people there and you got to learn their stories, and I mean I think it all like kind of comes together because like a lot of the people there were dementia patients, so I didn't get to know about, but there were a couple people there that like, you know, you talk to the families and you hear their whole life story and you're like, wow, they lived. Like they lived.
You don't even know because like so much happens in people's lives. So you think, okay, this is who they are, this is what they've done. But it's like there's 24 hours a day, and there's like so many years. There's so much that could happen even in 1 hour. Imagine what could happen in the span of their life. I notice when people say like, hey, celebrities, like, oh, they're doing anything anymore. I'm like, just because they're not in one huge movie doesn't mean like they're done or they've stopped. Like,
no,
their lives are still going on. It's just not in the spotlight. But
yeah,
you never know. So like, I think it's harder now because of social media. Just so much going on that you just like think that the big things are happening are the most important. But
yeah,
learning everything's important. You just got to focus on what really matters to you and what do you want to focus on.
Yeah.
Because it's hard because people will be like, you should care about this, you should care about that. And then it's like after the end of the day, you're like, well, I want to care about what I want to care about.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't have energy to give my energy to everyone.
Yeah.
I think Obama said it best at that commencement speech he gave, what was it, a year and a half ago, where he basically said something along the lines of, you're going to say things that are going to piss people off, and you might get offended by it, but you should probably just get over that real quick.
Yeah. No, I definitely choose my words carefully when I stream, because when it's live, like, you can't take that stuff back. It's on the internet forever.
That's why I love this, because I edited it. I'm like, you don't like what you said? Boom, we're throwing away.
Well, yeah. There's that beauty, but
and that must be also scary. So like, because you have to entertain, so you have to constantly say things. You have to be careful not to say things that could hurt anyone or hurt you later on down the road.
Yeah.
All right, but before we even get farther, like, who are you? Who is Caitlin? Wait. Caitlin went to Santa Monica Studios, but can you also let the fans know a little about what you want, what you do, and then we'll go from there.
Okay. Hi, I'm Caitlin. You might know me on Twitch as Vixit. That Vixit stands for, well, it doesn't stand for anything. It translates to they lived.
Oh.
In Latin, so my whole username is Vixit Mortis. They lived and they died.
That would be
like you can see Vixit on tons of epitaphs on Roman graves, because it's like, the year they lived, the year they died, and the year they were born.
Come up with, like, you just came about that word and you're like, this is it. This is my Twitch name.
Well, I think it spoke to me because I really like history. I like I'm not crazy about futuristic stuff, like cyberpunk stuff. Like it's a cool aesthetic, but it's not. I'm more about fantasy and like medieval stuff, and just how people manage to survive with no technology is kind of crazy to me. And just
it's crazy. Like, the internet didn't exist when I was a kid.
Yeah, no, I don't know how people got around without Google Maps. Like, I don't understand, right? But they made it work. Like,
driven across the country several times using paper maps.
Yeah, despite primitive technology, people still succeeded and got by. It's crazy. Like, I struggle with Google Maps and Google. Like, it's even with the access of information that we have now, like, I still struggle. And I'm like, these people just were like, they just kept tracking on. So yeah, like, my love of history, that's kind of where the name came from. Like, I love modeling. Like, a lot of my art has to do with like ruins and castles. So it all kind of comes together.
Yeah. That's a deep answer. No, because I love history a lot, but I also love futuristic. I think like both, because I see what happened and I see where we can go from there. That's why I love space and cyberpunk and AI and all that stuff. But I mean, it is crazy to think that, like, for so many years, people just got by doing the most crazy things possible, going out there and hunting, dealing with like monarchies, dealing with plagues, dealing with not knowing where they're going. Like, you would take 6 months.
We're dealing with a plague right now, right?
Yeah,
and like
exactly.
We deal with monarchies.
Well, that's true. Yeah. But I mean, you see, it's all the same, but it's still like, for us, it seems wild that like it's kind of the same, but just technology was different. But even in like, how do people react? I want to like time travel. I want to be like, how did you live and how is it different? Is it that different, or is it just technology wise different?
I've sometimes thought about how, like, peasants and
like
different people, like, they paid taxes to a king and they've probably never seen that person's face.
They probably never seen his face.
They don't even know what they look like.
And like
they stay within their like fortifications the whole time. Yeah. It's a crazy.
My thing with history is because, like, I've noticed when the recent as like technology increases, and I don't know if this was back then, but people, the self-help industry, and people like always like get after it, wake up early. But I'm like, when did that start? Was that 1,000 years ago when people were like peasants, like, all right, let's get after it today. Let's go make sure the king's got the food for, like, when did that start?
I would argue that it was this might be getting into like some.
Do we want to summarize Guns, Germs, and Steel for him? Because that'll give you kind of like the anthropological bent on the history of humanity from like 10,000 years ago until now.
Yeah,
which covers things like the discovery of domestication, the movement from hunter-gatherers to communities, the concept of collective defense, which then leads to militarized organizations and leadership of them.
Yeah, and you could totally edit this out because I can totally understand why, but I believe it's also the church's teachings where the whole like idea of like suffer on earth for everlasting comfort.
This was one of the primary reasons why we had the philosophy of separation of church and state in this country, because most countries were run by the religion.
So their self-help was like, yeah, you know, shit sucks, but like you're gonna die, and it's like you're gonna get like the babes, and you're gonna like you'll be fine. Just, you know, everything is unfair here, but just be complacent, and we got you. Like that's basically
it's like having everything you ever wanted.
As opiate of the masses.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow. All right, well, let's go back to what you do. So we've got, I like how you name it.
We have tangented every single topic so far.
I love how it started with the tangent, and then
I'm gonna assume that, you know, the whole like, you know, we exploited poor people with like their fate so that they'd be complacent. Like we can edit that out. So like I'll start again. Hi, I'm Caitlin. You can call me Vixen. You can call me Vixen. I am a full-time game developer at Santa Monica Studios. I am an environment artist - props. So I do breakables, I do interactables, I do props. I help out the environment team.
I think you're the first person I ever heard that said like they were prop artists. That's why I think that's why I was like, what does that mean? I think that's why I actually asked you before you even saw Santa Monica. I was like, prop artist.
Really not an in-house position.
Ah.
So you don't see it a lot.
Yeah. No.
It's usually
is it something you apply for, or is that like that you go in for artists and you're like, hey, you could be a prop artist, and you're like, yeah.
We can dig into that a little bit later.
Okay. Oh, that's gonna be another tangent.
No, it's just that's a can of worms. Well, not really like a can of worms in a negative way, but it's just it takes a bit of explaining.
I mean, we can dive into that for a little. Well, yeah, let's dive into it because then it's your main thing. You're a prop artist.
Yeah. So
let the worms come out.
Okay, here's the little grubs. Sorry, 1 second. I don't know why I sound like a chain smoker all of a sudden.
It's I don't.
Same thing. I need to get a glass of water too.
My years of smoking Camel Crushes are catching up with me.
You sound like The Witcher with the voice.
The Witcher?
Yeah.
Do I sound menacing?
Yeah.
Little grab
a little bit. You're about to tell us a dark story about like back then when I became a prop artist. But yeah, no, we don't follow because then it gets, you know, scripty. I don't like that.
We ain't no scripty people.
Yeah, no, we pretend like it's live. We're just going for it.
Yeah. So there's environment artists, and then that's like an umbrella, and then there's a whole bunch of different positions on there, and you can be like a prop artist. Generally speaking, props don't need, in most circumstances, you don't need a prop artist to be in-house. So it's generally cheaper, more cost effective for studios to hire like outsource studios to take care of the props.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
Because you don't have to handle the engine to get them done for the most part.
Yeah.
And then environment artists, people who are really touching terrain and putting together these environments and world builders and level designers and stuff, they actually have to be an engine. So it makes more sense to bring them in-house. So I think I'm one of 2 in-house prop artists. And then we have a bunch of props going to different outsourced studios. So.
And how does it feel? How does it feel to be a prop artist in Santa Monica?
It feels pretty cool. It feels pretty good.
Hey, I know. It's like Santa Monica God of War. Like how it must be like jumping for joy every day. Like, oh my gosh, you're working on this.
No, it's sometimes I wake up and I'm like, is this my life? Like I get to work at Santa Monica on the next God of War. I get to do props. I get to be a Twitch streamer. I get to be a YouTuber. Like, what is my life? Sometimes I don't understand.
Yeah, how does that feel? Like, is it like a dream every day? Do you kind of like sometimes think like, is this real? Is this like, is it gonna end at one moment, or
Kind of.
Yeah.
Like, definitely. And then I have to remind myself that it wasn't an accident. I put in the work.
Well, yeah.
Right.
It didn't just one day materialize. Like, it was
That's exactly what
years,
I was thinking while you were saying that. I was just
years
like, put in the
and years
work.
of work, like a grind. Like,
How many years are we talking? Like since 18 or even before that?
So I started doing art for Neopets when I was younger.
Neopets?
Not the website, but I mean, like, I was an active gamer on the website, and then if you had custom art for your Neopets, like on their pages, you were really cool. So I learned how to do some like digital art. Like, I remember MS Paint and Photoshop Elements, and then I got Photoshop. Like, that's where I started doing art, and that was like 2D illustration stuff. And then I think I got to high school and I got scared because I was like, oh, there's no way I can like get work as an artist and like survive.
Is that because of you, or did someone else tell you like, hey, art, is it gonna work out? You're gonna be the struggling artist?
Oh, that was entirely me.
Oh, okay.
Entirely me. Like, everybody else was like, oh, you're really good. Just go with it. And I was like, no way, fam. Like, no way, fam. Like, I can't do it. Like, I can't make this happen. So
how'd you get over that?
I went to community college. I tried a couple different things and I just didn't like it.
So you
I didn't
tried
like
the
anything I
medical?
tried. And then I started I was at IVC, my community college, and I got my AAT, which is like an AA for transfer to UCI. I was going to go from IVC to UCI, so use UC Irvine for their psych program. I wrote a couple of research papers. I like did them. I just hate it. I couldn't be arsed to like read a research paper on the weekends for fun. Like, it just wasn't for me. So like, I came time to apply to UCI because the agreement was like, if you get an AAT, like there's an agreement between the schools where you just automatically get in. So I would have gotten in if I just applied to transfer.
You were like, nah.
And then I found out about an art school like down the street from me in Laguna in the Canyon, and they have a game art program. So I went there and I toured it and I applied there instead. I didn't even apply to UCI. I submitted a portfolio full of Neopets art from like years ago.
See, so your younger self was preparing for this moment. And you just didn't know it.
Yeah.
Which is weird, right? It's like, how did you know to do that? Because you didn't know at the time.
No, there was. Yeah. I want to tell you some really inspirational story about how I was like, ever since I was like 12, I was playing like Star Fox, and I wanted to be a game designer ever since. And like, no, I didn't. I played games, a bunch of games, and I never occurred to me that you could get a job as a game artist. I don't know how to explain it to you, but it never occurred to me that it was a career path I could take.
Just artists, or like any job in the games?
Any job in games, really.
Yeah. A big part of that is largely because it just wasn't a viable career until somewhat recently. I mean, your generation invented this idea.
Yeah.
It is crazy because like even when I was younger, when I was like maybe 6, I saw something for like game tester, and my dad was like, hey, you like games, you should do that. And for some reason I was like, no, I'm not gonna do it. I think because they said it was like you get paid little, so I was like, no, like I want to make sure when I grow up I get paid lots of money, which I don't know. I don't know why that was fixated on that.
Yeah,
is what it is.
I don't know why it never occurred to me that I could just go do that, but I mean, I guess I trust the timing of everything. But yeah, it just basically was like, apply to UCI. Oh, look at this art school. I'll go there instead. So I applied, and I didn't even know if I was going to get in. And then I got in, and then I did my school there. And
did your like parents say anything? We're like, hey, what are you doing? Like,
no, they were like just happy I was doing something, because I was floating between trying things for so long that they were like getting scared. They were like, are you going to pick something?
Well, that's true, because you said from 18 to 22. So like, that's 5 years of just being like, hey.
Yeah, no, I was a full-time student, full-time job too. So
it's
tough. Like, it wasn't a life. It was like really unfulfilling.
Okay, so then you went to the school, but then after that, when did you start Twitch? Was that like after you did art school, or was that during it?
My last year of art school. So like in 2018, my senior year.
Okay.
Or
and
like
that was just like you wanted to play games and show it, or you saw people doing it?
Saw somebody doing art streams on Twitch. So I was like, oh, I can do that too. I'm lonely. So I started doing my homework on stream.
No, really?
I started just doing my homework on stream.
Did anybody
for a
watch
couple
it?
months.
How many people were like watching you do your homework?
You know, it's hard because like numbers wise, like maybe 10 to 15 average. And that's not a lot.
Homework. I mean, yeah.
That's for like this big scope of Twitch. That's not a lot, but actually that already puts you in like the top 5% of Twitch. Which is kind of fucking crazy, right? Like
I'm just thinking like only 12 people watching you do your homework. That's actually a little creepy.
Yeah. But like if you're putting yourself, it's that's not the same as going to the public library and then sitting down and doing your work and then suddenly a crowd of 12 people congregates around you. Like there's like I think there's
kind of the same thing.
Understood agreement that it's not weird for you to watch people if you go live on Twitch.
That's something we got to do performance art wise though. Have somebody walk into a library, sit down, and start doing their homework, and then like randomly people stand up and walk behind them and start watching.
I don't want that.
See what she's doing? Crazy.
Yeah.
And then, so then when did you move from homework to games?
Well, I stopped after a couple months. I don't know. It got hard because like I was still learning, so it wasn't like, it was too distracting to stream and then try to learn stuff at the same time.
That makes sense. Just
doing something and showing people like, yo, what's up? Watch me do this. Like, it was like, yo, what's up? Watch me struggle.
Yeah, right. Watch me struggle. And they're like,
yeah. So I actually stopped streaming for like 2 or 3 years.
Oh, okay.
And then
I could vibe with that.
And so
I tried streaming programming a couple of times while I was learning, and it was just like exactly that. It was like you're sitting here watching me think and struggle. There's literally nothing going on. I'm just thinking.
Yeah. And then March rolled around of 2020, and I decided to start again.
Wait, hold on. Was that before it, like COVID got huge, or was that after?
No, it's actually like timing wise, like it was just before Trump announced the border closures and travel restrictions. So I actually happened to start just before, like just as like shit got real.
Yeah, so it was like, I guess, perfect for Twitch streamers. Yeah, because people were like, okay, I guess we're stuck at home.
Yeah, no, it was completely coincidental, but it worked out.
Yeah,
and then I started Dark Souls, and now I've just been a Dark Souls streamer since.
Out of all games, Dark Souls. Woo.
Dude,
it's a tough one.
I love it. I love it so much.
Wait, hold on a second. Are you saying it's hard, like challenging?
Yeah. What do you?
KB, why have you not told me about this game, and why did you just waste another 6 months of my life?
Oh, you don't even understand. You're gonna get and also I found out too with these games, it's like you actually kind of get distracted with all the enemies. Like there are ways to get weapons and do different things where you can actually breeze through some of these games. But that's also really hard. Like I played Mortal Shell. And I got addicted to now. I get it, because before I was like, I don't care for Dark Souls, I keep dying. But then I started to watch these videos. I was like, this is really good. This is, and then like if you could figure out
that's the crack, man.
Yeah,
that's the crack.
I did, and now I'm like, but yeah, no.
Aaron, he got me into playing GTA a couple of years ago. It was like 9 months of my life were gone.
I think it's still gone, right? He's still playing. Ever since the island came out, yeah. But no, I got him hooked. Like he was programming every day, and then all I see is GTA posts. I'm like, oh no, what did I do?
Yeah, I was streaming live actually when I got the call from the recruiter that was like, hey, we're sending you an offer.
What?
Yeah, and I like cried on stream, and I couldn't say what I like. I couldn't, because I didn't sign any paperwork yet, so like it wasn't like official. So I couldn't be like, guys, I got the job at this place. I was just like,
they're probably like,
what's going on?
Yeah, they're like, she just keeps losing, so she's crying. It's like, no.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a crazy experience too. Yeah. But yeah, so Now they got me all confused. Who are we on? Oh yeah, so Dark Souls. Okay, so what was that like starting Dark Souls and Twitch streaming, and like what was difficulties you experienced?
I think I can't believe I'm about to do it. Life lessons from Dark Souls for all you prospective gamer students. I'm actually really glad to have picked it up and continued with it and stuck with it, because I think it taught me such an important lesson in life, and that is that with persistence, passion, effort, dedication, you can, within reason, like you can accomplish pretty much anything. Like if you set out for, if you want something, put in the grind, like put in the effort, put in the time, make a million attempts. If you want to be a foliage artist, your first 50 trees are going to just suck. And you just got to trust the process. Like, before, like I would make something, it would suck, and I'd be like, oh, damn it. Like, and then I would be like, oh, I'm just not good at this. And now I'm like, all right, this tree sucks. The next one's going to suck a little bit less. And the one after that's going to suck even like less. And then you just keep going.
Wow.
You can't let there's, when you start something and you want to be good at something, you go through a horrible phase where you're just awful at it. And I think a lot of people get really discouraged.
That's one of the biggest misunderstandings of life and what experience means. Saying that you have experience means that you have failed at doing something a whole lot of times and you have learned how not to fail.
Like embrace it. Like embrace failure.
It's hard to do too.
And remove the personal aspect of it too. Because it's not a reflection of you. It's just a reflection of the amount of time you've invested so far.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's a way healthier way to look at it.
See, I think that's the thing. Is like people have well, my experience, an unhealthy perspective with like time. So you think like everything has to be done right away. So you're like, oh, I'm not good at this. Then probably for me to get good, it's going to take this amount of years.
Oh, totally. 100%.
But like I've noticed that like just time will keep going no matter what. So might as well just keep sticking to it, and you're gonna get good eventually. Because if not, then what else do you have? Because like even to say, hey, like I don't have time to fail, but it's like
time passes anyways.
What are you gonna do anyways?
Yeah,
it's one of those few times where being pot committed is a good thing.
Yeah, and like I went through art school, and when I started art school, I hadn't drawn or done any art in years. So I had such a rough time at art school.
Oh, okay.
Like I was actually the worst. Like objectively, I was one of the worst in my class. Like it just because, and I thought it was a personal thing. Like I thought I was the worst artist. And what I wish I had the mindset now, I went back and maybe things would have been different. Like I wish I understood that I was only the worst because I had the fewest amount of hours put into learning at that time. Everybody else, the vast majority of people had come there from community college having done an art program, having done some kind of prior formal training. And I had none of that. I was self-taught from just random DeviantArt tutorials and stuff. So it's a lesson I did not know, and it affected my growth too.
How, like you just felt like maybe giving up sooner, or
no? I mean, luckily I never gave up, but I would feel the weight of that difference between me and my peers. Like, and it would weigh me down. It was like a 10-pound like weight just on my chest. Like I would start assignments and just freak out because I'd be like, fuck, I won't be able to do it like them. And then of course sometimes when you're really bad, like teachers don't know how to help you because again, it's like it's the concept where they can tell you how to do things. They'll be like, oh yeah, like do this a little more three-dimensionally or like shade it this way.
And you're like,
okay, that makes sense.
How?
But I need to get the muscle memory for this stuff, and I need to get the experience and practice. So you can tell me this, but I won't be able to like apply it properly until I practice it like 100 hours. I can't just come back like next week and have it done. And nobody like, I don't think nobody took it personally. Like no teacher took it personally, but like I took it personally because I was like, why can't I just do this thing they're talking about? Like I just didn't fundamentally understand that process.
You strike me as somebody who is especially hard on yourself, which I'm also like that. But I've heard a lot of people saying that they think that it's not necessarily a good thing, and there is definitely being too hard on yourself.
Oh no,
but at the same time, having your own, vision of what you're trying to accomplish, and even if you can't make your body accomplish it, you just got to try, right?
Yeah.
Because eventually you'll see what you see in your mind's eye.
No, totally. Like self-compassion, I think it's just a thing artists are inherently terrible at. It's hard. It's something I've really actively had to work on. And it's like a thing I still really struggle with, even at work now. Like my manager's always telling me like, you're doing great. And my lead's like, you're doing great. And I still get scared to submit things, even as a person at like a AAA studio now. Like it's like I have the work title, I have the badge. Like I clearly have proven that I can do it, and like everybody there believes me. But like it's still something I struggle with, where I'm like, I just got to keep noodling this thing until oblivion because I don't like it.
So when you say you're working on it, like what does that look like?
Like a self-compassion.
Yeah,
or just
or like
I guess
being hard on yourself and trying to work past that.
I would call it paralytic perfectionism.
Okay.
And
yeah, I've heard that term before too.
I think I literally just made it up. I don't think it's
yeah.
But there is. It's a known concept in psychology.
It is, but I don't know. I don't know if it's actually paralytic.
Fear, essentially.
But it's my best way to describe it. Yeah, because it's like, it's the fear of not meeting your expectations, and then it ends up paralyzing you.
What if your expectations are bigger than what you're capable of at the moment?
Have you ever seen that chart where it's a graph where one axis is your eye's ability to see and like understand and like pick apart good and bad on a piece or something you're working on, and then your ability to execute, and the two are always at war? And there's like a progression of growth where your eye always grows quicker than your ability. So like sometimes the two axes intersect, and like you have like this moment where you're like, yeah, I'm fine, I'm good. And then you learn more and your eye gets better. And then then there's this like period of despair where your ability is catching up with your eye.
For sure.
I have not seen that graph, but that explains it so much.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah.
The same thing happened with music as well. Is that like I've looked at stuff that I wrote maybe 20-30 years ago, and it's pretty clear that I didn't understand musical modes, whereas now I do. And when I'm writing music, it's far more interesting. It's far better than it was, even though what I wrote back then wasn't terrible. It's just that understanding, my eye looks at it now and is just like, oh, I didn't know anything.
Yeah. And it's it can definitely, I still haven't quite worked out an internal system to completely resolve that despair. When I get there, I'll get back to you on that in a couple of years, I guess, and see how. I'll check in with you guys later on that one. But
that's good. We'll do part 2.
I think some of the things that I have done that help me the most are just and it's hard, just constantly checking in with like your leads, and then just if they say something's good enough, just trust them, because it is good enough.
That must be hard, doing something and be like, is it good enough? And they're like, yeah. And you're like, I don't know.
You don't frame it like that. You're just, I mean, like, I don't go to my lead like, hey Dan, does this suck? Like, I don't do that.
And they're like, nah, you're good.
Hey Dan, is this good enough for you to pay me this week?
Yeah, well, on that note, like how you approach people for feedback is also very important. It can be devastating to ask somebody what you like, what they think of something you're working on, especially creatively or artistically, or things based in opinions, and then like subjective things, and then have them come back with like a whole laundry list of I think like could be better, because that's dangerous, right? Because you don't necessarily share their vision. So I have found that it causes me a lot less discomfort, and it gives me far more useful and actionable information to just go to people directly and ask them specifics. Like if I'm working on a lamp,
there you go.
I'm looking at like my lamp right here, or a tree or something.
No spoilers.
Be like, instead of being like, what do you think about this tree? Because that's so open-ended. Be like, how do you think I can get the bark to be more convincing of this specific kind of tree? And then it focuses. And then like you get like, it's just, it's very easy to get carried away with feedback, because that was another mistake I made. I would go constantly for feedback, and then I would get so much that you don't really know what to do with it.
It's hard, yeah, because if you ask them, hey, what's wrong with this, they can come up with a bunch of things, but it's like, that's not really what I was asking for. It was like, because you could always find something.
Oh, totally, 100%.
Even the best, they're like, that game, Ratchet and Clank, wow, but the lighting or this or that, I'm like, come on, the game is like it looks good.
Why so there's a saying in game dev, no game ships done, because there's a point with everything where you're like, this just, it's good enough, we just got to get it out. There's no way to make anything perfect.
That also is one of those huge struggles being a perfectionist, is that you do have to know when it's done enough. And that is super hard for some people.
Yeah, no, I feel for students too, because I was a student up until like 2 years ago. So I remember the struggle of working on student projects and having to put things into your portfolio so you could apply to places, but understanding that what you were putting up were student projects, and thus like learning projects, and thus you were not displaying mastery, you're displaying learning. And so putting that like, and then you hear constantly the feedback of like, your portfolio is only as good as the worst thing in your portfolio, which is, I don't like that. I really don't like that, because that really gets to people's heads. So like, if you're trying to get in the industry and like you're learning and getting better, putting yourself out there can be really nerve-wracking.
Nerve-wracking to yourself, nerve-wracking because you're like, I got to get paid somehow. Like there's so many factors to it that it's just like, am I gonna survive? Is this it? Is this the right choice? Like that's life though, right? So always you got to deal with, I guess that's why Dark Souls has taught you so much, because you learn to persevere and deal with so many things.
Oh yeah, like, I can spend 60 hours straight on a boss on stream. Not like 60 hours straight, like I don't sleep for like 60 hours. I just like, it's just cumulatively, like it will take me 60 hours of attempts to get a boss sometimes, because I play the game on like extra hard mode. And that's the thing, like you got to tell yourself, like people come on, they're like, how have you not snapped? And I'm like, I have mental disorders, but also I like but also like, you gotta, it used to get to me a little bit, because I was like, why am I not getting it? And then you realize you're playing a really hard game. You're playing the hard game on artificial difficulty. Like I keep making it harder on myself, like I'm doing right now on stream, which I'm sure these words are just gonna go, but like I'm doing soul level 1, so I'm not scaling up with the bosses. I am basically one hit. And the damage, usually you're supposed to do like 600, 700 damage on these bosses, and I'm only doing like 30. So I'm taking forever on these bosses.
The question is why? Why are you doing the hardest thing possible? Is that just to push yourself? No, I know why not.
Yeah, well, that's just it. It's like,
why not?
That grind is fun.
I mean, yeah, I agree. I'm
like
the same
my
way.
relationship with that grind and that process has changed to where now, like, if it takes longer, that just means the payoff when I get it is going to be that much sweeter, right?
Mhm. I'm
And
curious
like,
because I'm the type of person that likes to deal with multiple things. How do you stick with one game for so long?
again, it's just I mean, like, how do people stick with one job for so long?
Oh, and there you go.
How do people cashier for like it just it's one, I think it's circumstances, right? Like some
Yeah,
people like they are going crazy and they can't do anything about it. But I mean,
yeah.
like,
But do you ever feel like you're missing out?
no.
Okay.
For me, it's a business.
Yeah, true.
Like it's fun, but also like so the streaming is a business. And then I'm building community around the game.
Mhm.
So I have people rooting for me.
Okay.
And then people keep coming back. And so like I'll finish the game. And it'll take me weeks to get through it on these difficulty modes, like weeks. And then I finally get through it. And then I'm like, all right, guys, we're making it harder this way. And then everybody just people like more and more people show up and get excited. And they're like, you're people's champion. So there's a bigger reason you're doing it than the game.
Wow, that's cool. People's champion. How does that make you feel? You're like, yeah.
Really fucking cool. No, just kidding. No, it's I genuinely just really like the game. Like I like the combat. I like that you get through it when you're meant to get through it. Like once you get it.
Ooh, I like that.
Like it's not impossible. And that's again, it's all about the life lessons it's teaching me, which is so cheesy. I know. It's like super corny, but
No,
and these are lessons that are completely applicable to like Dark Souls. Dark Souls lessons are applicable to game dev because if you look at like the Steam achievement percent, hold on, let me pull it up actually.
Yeah.
Like let me look at
For
my
the first one or the
achievements.
third one?
The third one. If you go to the achievement,
Oh yeah, if you get
I
to
am
the
just
end
looking up.
to get the Dark Soul, 3.1% people have gotten it.
Yeah, I'm not seeing the percentages, but I know that to the percentage of people who light the first bonfire in the game, which means they got through they got past Gunder.
Mm-hmm.
No, there's actually a bonfire before Gunder. So the people who get past Gunder, which is the first boss, is like 25% or something stupid like that. Like 75% of people that buy the game, like it's crazy. Like people just give up. And the game, that's the thing, like it's not impossible. It just takes a bit of learning and like just keep retrying it. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And that's so applicable for a lot of things. And then like I think of getting your first industry job as like the first boss of game dev. And it is so crazy hard to get that first job, but it's not impossible. And I mean, again, it's like a circumstance thing. It's like everybody comes from different circumstances. So for some people, it just financially is impossible for them to wait that period out and then like work a full-time job, come home, and then work basically a second full-time job, grinding out their portfolio to get noticed by these companies and then go to mixers and network and stuff. So I say this with caution because, some people just can't. And it's just don't give up. Just don't give up. Keep learning, keep being passionate. Like, if you don't get a job right away, it's not like a personal failing. It's how it goes. Mm-hmm. Some people take years. And it's also timing and luck. Like some people get it right away because they knew people or because, again, their journey might have been different than yours. Like there's people who have been, like I went to school with somebody who went to an art specific high school. So since he was 13, he was getting, and then he was like, I met him when he was 22 at the college. So like he had almost a decade of just pure art training. So
Yeah, you can't compare yourself to something like that.
Yeah, and he got a job at DreamWorks straight out of college, and like most people look at him and then like be like, "Oh my god, it's been a year. I haven't got work." And it's like, but it's not that. He's been working for 10 years and then got a job. You've been working for 4 and you're struggling. It's just don't give up.
Mhm.
Like your time will come.
It's beautifully said.
Yeah.
Your time will, yeah. I think that's it. Like if you never give up, you're gonna make it someday.
In some capacity, yeah.
Don't know when. And I think again, people trying to rush. I try to rush things. Just be patient. Time will come when it's ready for you.
Yeah. And there is something to be said too about like, okay, so like it does take time. Just make sure that you're constantly evaluating your progress, you know, keeping up with your peers, like keeping up with people who are in the industry, like just to make sure that like you're building the right skills too, because you could certainly be doing the wrong thing for years and never get anywhere. But I mean, as long as you're making like educated decisions with how you practice, which I mean basically making props and making portfolio pieces is practice, right? Like how you do your studies, how you hone your skills is important too.
And so how long do you usually spend on like these studies? For instance, was it like I'm gonna go home from work and then study all night long, or
these days, like I haven't been lately just because, you know, like I work full time. So basically like 8 hours a day, I am studying on the job. And that's another thing too, is like, once you get the job, you're going to learn so quickly that like, you don't necessarily need to do too much personal art because you're learning so much on the job. And that's kind of where I'm at right now.
So it's probably more then, like learn new technologies out of work and not really the fundamentals, because you've already pretty much mastered it or gotten a grasp. Yeah.
But even then, like even me being in work, like, so I've taken about like 6 months to just, you know, learn all the proprietary tools, because there's lots of stuff. Like I got to the job and I had to learn tons of new software that is Santa Monica specific. So I had my own grind going on at work. So it was just like, get off work and be like, no more. Right? No more. Like I needed my downtime, but now I'm like pretty comfy. And even someone at this AAA studio and like working on this amazing game and doing all this stuff, like I am currently in the process of planning out a learning project, like an environment, a whole environment and stuff for me to do, just because I'm like, I got to keep up with it. Even though I'm there, even though I'm learning, like the technology is always changing and evolving, and even people who are employed now are still having to do that grind to keep up.
Because new technology is coming out, and if you don't keep up with it, someone else is gonna come and either know it more, or you just will get left behind, which is tough because it's like you never feel like you made it. I feel like, I don't know if it's just the game dev industry. I feel like other industries, like sometimes once you've learned it, got the degree, you're like, you're good, go and get your job. That's why some people, it's weird because like when I never had like game dev friends really until like I started doing this game dev and podcast stuff. So nobody ever mentioned it. And I feel like everybody in that friend group was like, we're going to school and then that's it. And then we're done. They don't really want to explore and learn more. But when I'm with my game dev friends, like, okay, what are we learning this week? Let me push myself to learn this new programming language. Let me push myself to do this new thing. And I'm like, this is different than like what I was kind of used to, where it's kind of like, get the thing and you're done. And it's like, no, it never ends. That's why I always tell people, like, what do you mean it never ends? I'm like, no, I'm always learning. Like, it's even if I do get my degree, do get this.
And that's why, like, if you want to go into game dev, like, you better be about the grind. And like the grind doesn't necessarily mean like suffering. Right? It's not. And that's the thing. I think it's good that we're talking about like grind culture, because grind culture can definitely get pretty toxic, but I don't think the grind itself should be seen as a negative. Like, I think that there is a healthy grind, right? Like, because you should fear complacency. You should fear stagnation.
We used to call it the hustle.
The hustle? No, I don't even like the hustle.
Yeah, but like, not like in the negative connotation that people think of that word these days, like you're hustling somebody, though. I mean, it was just like that was, you know, you were hustling. You were grinding is what they call it these days. It's so funny how language changes.
Yeah, and I'm sure that there's going to be a better, I
would
mean,
call
I
it
can't
like
think off the top of my head a better word for it, but I'm sure there is
following your
a way
passion.
better word than
No,
grind.
there's not. I mean, that was,
Hustle,
and the wonderful thing about it is that came out of the MMO community from like the days of EverQuest and Ultima Online, when you just had to grind to get stuff.
Yeah, you just got to put in the time and effort.
It's amazing how much gamer culture has become mainstream over the years.
But,
sorry. I always come off with the old guy comments. That's just what my job is on the podcast.
That's why I have him here.
Perspective of somebody that's like 20 years older.
Yeah, he's got experience. You know, I hope so. But also, so you did mention the toxicity of like the hustle culture. How do you avoid that? Like, how do you avoid feeling like it's too much? Like, oh, I'm stressed out or burnt out or something like that. Or maybe you don't feel it.
You know, for me personally, one of the best things that I've done, which wasn't a thing I did consciously at the time, but I have a life outside of game dev, which is, it's, I do and I don't. I have 3 jobs basically at this point, right? With content creation for YouTube and then Twitch streaming and this job. But when I go on Twitch, I don't have to think about game dev. I'm just gaming. I'm doing my show. I've got my people. Like, it's a great mental break, but it's still productive time because it's not just gaming. It's me growing a business, right? And it's social. It's I'm getting my little W's, my little wins throughout the day as I like beat bosses or like hit different stream goals or whatever. I think that definitely keeps me sane on the grind because I've met people who all they do is game dev. Like, they have their job and then they get off the job and then they just make more game dev art, or like they have like their different game dev projects. And it's, I think I can respect that, but I personally need more life than just that. And I think that there's a fine balance, and I feel bad for students because, you know, your life, and it's certainly something I did, and maybe it's just a luxury you don't have as a student, but you just, I think a lot of people go mental because that's all they have to think about. And it's just I remember being a student, every waking moment, I was like, how am I going to get that job? How am I going to get that job? How am I going to make my portfolio good? Like, that was all I thought about.
Yeah. No, it's hard because you're constantly thinking, I don't have a job yet, so I need to get there. So then you think, okay, I need to improve. So then you spend every waking moment. Every book I read has to help me get better at art. Every like podcast I listen just to help me get better at art. If not, then I'm gonna start stressing or think I'm not good enough. Or so like it's just I like you said, it's hard for game devs.
It's such a strange thing that you guys are both saying that, because I can't relate to that. When I was younger, I never had the thought in my head, how am I going to get a job? It was almost a given when I was younger that I would definitely have a job.
I definitely don't. I think that the competition as time goes on.
Yeah.
We are getting more studios. There is more work happening, but not at the same rate as more people going for these jobs.
Yeah, no.
So I definitely feel like
need more businesses making more games.
Like, for instance,
how could this possibly be a bad thing for the world?
No, it's just I feel bad for the students these days because it's
also because a lot of people put their self-worth in their work. So if they don't get the job, then they're not good enough.
Yeah.
And then there's also the money aspect. They don't have a job, they can't pay for stuff, so they can't go on these trips, or they're always stressed, or they're stuck in this vicious cycle where it's like,
when I was in school, they made it excruciatingly clear that we were in competition with other students, and if we didn't, like, we were competing for the same jobs as our peers, and like we had to basically outdo them, otherwise we wouldn't get work. And like, I think in a way it was a good dose of reality that they kept reminding us that you can't slack off, but the way that they did it made it seem like, you're just, the world is stacked against you and you have a 1% chance of getting work, and then you're going to die and you're going to be so poor that you're going to have to eat your own paintings. Like the end of the world.
There again is a major difference. My teachers told me if you couldn't find work, you could make your own business. That was what my teachers told me.
That's perfectly true. Like indie is a thing, but the schools, schools want students to push themselves and get into the big studios so that they can say that they made that student.
They're trying to make pipeline. They're trying to make pipeline for the labor demand.
100%.
Rather than trying to encourage people to be entrepreneurs and make their own businesses.
Yeah, and I mean, I get it from a
more
school,
minions rather than more.
I get it. I get the school's perspective on that, because schools are a business.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sorry, they don't exist for the student. They exist for the Maserati sitting in the Dean's parking lot, right? Like
and the fancy trash cans.
Yeah, like no, and that's why I'm like, with the access of information that we have now, I would almost tell people don't even fucking bother, because they're not, like, schools don't exist in your interest. Like the teachers there will be there for you. Like the teachers there are there because they're passionate, but the school itself, the institution, doesn't give a shit about you other than what you can do for the school. Spicy opinion time. Like
that taco.
It's
no, I agree.
Like it's
so okay, you say don't go. So how could someone then get to the level that you're at? Because that means you have to build your own schedule and then sacrifice a lot of time, and then you have to find someone to get feedback from.
I learned nothing at school. Everything I learned was outside of school.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's not that the
so what does that look like
anything,
though?
But like I said, I was so bad that there wasn't anything I could take away from anything there. Like I had to just grind it. And then once I got out of school, it was like I was finally at that starting point that everybody else was at. So like then I could go and get that feedback. Then I could go do this. Like I could start like actually building my stuff up. So I learned more from my peers, get involved in communities. Twitter is great because like there's tons of artists on there, and there's different Discord communities that you can join where it's just artists working on stuff, and people are happy to help each other out. Like, school, the atmosphere was like fucking carnivorous velociraptors. Like everybody was going for the same job carcass, like, and just ripping each other's limbs off to get at it. Like it was horrible. But a lot of these communities, like, you get out in the real world and it's really not like that. Like people really want to see you succeed, and it's like the cup spills over when people want to help you. Like you don't need to go to school. You don't need to go to school. You just
and
you need to be somebody driven.
Is because somebody helped them.
Yeah.
And that's why they want to help you.
There's no self-made people. There's people who've had a lot of help.
That's right.
It's like Arnold Schwarzenegger talks about that. Like I think he did a commencement speech where he was like, everybody says I'm a self-made man, but I got here and I went to the gym and these people fed me and took care of me. And so like, I'm not a self-made man. I had tons of help. And then same here. Like I've had tons and tons and tons of support from community members. I just knew I wasn't shy about getting it. Right? It's not a sign of weakness to go and reach out to these people for help.
You're right.
Like lean into your community.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing too, is like with networking, people really freaking misunderstand networking. It shouldn't be like talk to this person once and then okay, you get them on your contact list and you're good. It's networking should be more community involvement. Get respect, like help out your community, be part of it, get that respect that way. Let people get to know you that way. Let people see that you're passionate. You want to be part of the community. You want to add value to the community, and people will lift you up.
Oh yeah, I've seen that in my own experience. It's just it has to come from a genuine place too.
Yeah.
Like you can't just be like, oh, I'm gonna talk to this person and they'll get me this job. No, it's gotta be like, I want to help I'm trying to do my thing. Maybe I can support them, and then while supporting them, I can also grow as a person by asking for feedback, and then constantly interact with this person, not be like one and done. Like, hey, is this good? Cool. Right? Never see you again. It's like, no, it's maybe try to build connections instead of just trying to build a like a ticket to wherever you're trying to go.
Yeah, no, like I said, networking, people say go network, and I think people grossly misunderstand what you really should be doing by network. Like, don't look at network. Like, it just, people should just erase that. And people should just stop saying that and be like, get involved with the community.
Yeah. Community
Like,
can help you way more.
Yeah, well, that's what it should be about.
Like, that's what I've always thought. I was like, why are people always trying to, do things on their own when it's like one person can do so much? But imagine having multiple people all trying to help each other do, because everybody's trying to succeed. It's not like a hidden thing. It's not like, oh, I'm going to be better than you, so I'm not going to tell you my secrets. It's like, no, why don't we all help each other, teach each other, and then boom, we both all become successful. And then we can all live the life we want. And we can all do what we want. Like, why not do that? Why? Because it's hard. I know, like when you're shy, it's hard to like give yourself out there. Like, is my stuff good?
Well, the shyness comes from fear of rejection, and I'm telling you, like people want you in the community.
Yeah,
like, people want you. Like, we're a pretty close, tight-knit community in the game dev world, especially in like at least the art side. Like, we're just happy to have more people that are passionate about the same things.
You see, that's the key thing, and I'm glad you said it. That people, they want you. I think.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's maybe just experiences, but I think, because personally for me, it's like, oh no, like I need to be alone and nobody wants you, but everybody wants. It's fine. People want you part of the group. Nobody's gonna say, oh, don't have you. That's like high school stuff that only happens to certain groups, not everyone.
No, and you know what? There's always going to be like a bad apple or something.
Yeah.
There's always going to be like one shitty person who's really insecure.
Yeah.
And so somebody might run into one of those types and be like, oh, everybody's like, no. The majority of people, no, we kind of all understand each other's struggle.
I heard that from one of my friend's sister, who was like, everyone out here is just as scared, but we handle it together. We still go for it. Like, it's not that we're not scared, not that we're not afraid to let like a rejection, not afraid to let, show our work and get feedback. It's that we handle it. We take it on together, because why not? Like, why not play Dark Souls and super hard? Just why not do it? Who knows what could happen at the end of it?
At the end of the day, you look really cool.
It's natural. It's a natural progression of humanity to struggle with understanding that other humans are experiencing the same thing that you're experiencing.
Yeah.
Natural progression is, if you've read any childhood development type books, when you talk about, the early age up to 3 years old, and then 5 to 6, and then about to 12, there's these different phases of in a lot of ways, it's almost like lessening narcissism. Right?
Yeah.
1 to 3, you cry, and the world responds by solving whatever your pain is. As you get older and older, you start to realize that everybody else is experiencing the same pain every day, just like you are.
Yeah.
Oh man, am I cynical or what?
No, it's life, the human condition.
What we're doing on this floating rock.
I mean, that's really completely commendable of you, Caitlin. I mean, that's the perseverance and the grind, as you put it. It really is. It's all about putting in that work.
If I could go back and tell myself that's all it takes. It's just being patient and enjoying the journey. Because even now, like with Twitch and stuff, like I get really impatient. Like, I want to grow. I want that feedback that I'm doing things right. And day to day, it can be hard to remember that, because it's a thing that happens gradually. But then if you look at it month to month or year to year, you see the huge leaps, right? And it's something to keep in mind with game dev too, is like, if you're looking at it project to project, maybe you won't see those huge leaps in skill growth, but like maybe every 10th project to every 10th project, like you will see the difference. Just trust the process. Trust that it's a slow process, but it's a process that will yield results as long as you stick with it. It's like working out and dieting and losing weight. Like if you don't do the work, you won't see the change. But if you do the work, like you will lose weight, you will gain muscle. You just got to stick with the program, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think another aspect of that to also consider is that, you know, in the thought of, you know, others are experiencing the same struggle as you are, they also have an opinion of what your abilities are and a belief in what you're capable of. And they're often not going to assign you something that they don't think you can do.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I actually have to go back to work now.
Yeah,
My
no
lunch
problem.
is over, but
At my
I've kept you guys here for an hour.
No, it's all good. Yeah, this has just been too good. So last thing, quick challenge for GameDev.tv students, artists, whoever. Yeah, quick challenge you could think of.
Like an art project.
It could, yeah, whatever you can think of.
I think organics are always very difficult to do. So I would say do a dirt texture.
Okay.
And that sounds really simple, but dirt is actually really hard because you gotta break down the tertiary, secondary, and primary forms. And dirt can very quickly go from dirt to dough to like sand. Like it's actually really deceptively hard to do good dirt. So that is a good challenge, and your first one's gonna suck. So the challenge isn't to do dirt once, it's to do dirt 10 times.
There you go. And it might take you a year. You never know, but keep at it.
No, you shouldn't. You should each one you should spend no more than a day on.
I was just trying to make the whole Dark Souls.
Legit, just spend a day. You do a 10-day dirt challenge.
Don't take a year. Don't listen to me.
Yeah.
Awesome. But yeah, so thank you for coming on, Caitlin. It's been great.
I actually had a lot of fun. So thank you for bringing me.
Of course. And I'd like to just end it off by letting you have the mic and saying any last minute shout outs, quotes, inspiration. Even though you've done too many inspiration, it was like, oh my gosh, I feel more motivated in a motivational speech.
No, well, again, thank you guys so much for having me. My name is Vixit on Twitch, Vixit Mortis, VIXIT-MORTUS. I'm sure you're going to post links in the description of if you're going to put this on YouTube or something. But you can catch me live on Twitch if you ever have any questions. Like I do answer, like every now and then I do have people come on my Twitch stream and ask me like game dev questions, and I am more than happy to answer it. I love talking about this. I talk about game dev stuff while I'm doing like Dark Souls runs and stuff. You can catch me on Twitter too. Like my DMs are open. You can always DM me. I am very busy though, so it might take me a second to reply, but I am more than happy to help anybody out. Like I said, it takes community. It takes bravery to reach out and get that process started. So I'll commend anybody who tries, like who just straight up just tries. Because you know, a lot of game devs are busy, so you don't always get a response, but it's always worth a shot.
Well, that's it. Thanks for listening. You can find all courses at GameDev.tv or in the show notes at a discounted price. Get started with your game development journey today.